older we get, then that means the more we're exposed to not just toxins outside of us or poor nutrition, or the biggest toxin out there, I think, is other people and our thoughts. Our thoughts is probably our most toxic thing, because other people we're only exposed to so much, but we're with us 24/7. And the other factor that isn't a diagnosis, but that we really should talk about today is stress.
Our next guest is Jessica Preston. Her initial field of study includes a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan in biochemistry. She has a master's degree from Wayne State Physician Assistance Program. She is an author. She has her own TV program called The New Health. She has trained experts and taught audiences, now focusing on how to optimize egg and sperm health.
Miscarriage rate is about 1 in 4, 25%. One thing that I think is really important to know statistically also is when it comes to stress, infertility, and miscarriage rank higher on a stress scale for women than.
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity podcast. Our next guest is Jessica Preston. The story of how we met is pretty simple. We met at a networking event here in Houston, which is interesting because she's actually out of Michigan. We connected on all sorts of medicine 3.0 and fertility topics, and I invited her to join me on the podcast. Life got busy and we never got around to getting it scheduled. Then, as I was walking into a talk at a recent Mindshare event in Scottsdale, this lady, who, if I'm honest, I did not recognize, greeted me enthusiastically and said, "What are you doing here?" as we passed by each other. Later, she came by my booth, filled in the contextual gaps in my brain that I needed to remember how we met, and it was so nice to connect again. She is here today to talk about an exciting focus she has on functional medicine and particularly fertility. Interestingly, we both have twins. We're both parents of twins. I don't know if that'll come up in this interview. Her initial field of study includes a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan in biochemistry. She has a master's degree from Wayne State Physician Assistance Program. She is an author. She has her own TV program called The New Health. She has trained experts and taught audiences, now focusing on how to optimize egg and sperm health and ultimately a couple's fertility naturally. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Yes, I know, seeing you at Accredited Capitalist, completely out of context, then at Mindshare, then again at Accredited Capitalist, this had to happen.
Yeah, absolutely had to happen. So with your undergraduate degree in biochemistry, followed immediately by your master's as a physician assistant, I want some background context here. If you look back to growing up, what was it like to grow up as Jessica Preston? Where did you grow up? If you think about growing up and your parents, were there any early clues that you were destined to work in healthcare?
This is a wonderful question, and thank you for asking, because I get to give a little credit out there to my family. So I have a wonderfully supportive mom. I was born in the 70s. Don't want to date myself, but I am, who basically opened the whole world of you can be whatever you would like to be, whatever you want. So I was very much in that space of just being able to explore and discover where I wanted to go. So my stepdad, who was my dad from a very young age, he was a physician assistant as well, and his dad so my grandfather, a biochemist. So he is a well-known biochemist. Minor J. Kuhn, goes by Judd Kuhn. I just want to give a little shout out because he actually discovered the P450 system in his lab. And so when it came to, I don't get to share that much in the world. And so just to give so much to him, he was such a mentor during my biochemistry education, supported me so fully in that space. And then when I moved into medicine, I was a little disappointed that I didn't go the research route, but then my dad, was in that space to be able to be very supportive when it came to medicine. So in those two spaces, what I found with biochemistry, so with a relative like this, you kind of have to do well. I actually originally intended to go into brain research, was my entire intent. But when I went into biochemistry and figured I wanted to go, which direction did I want to go? In the research method or the helping people method, helping people really had its draw for me. And then when I went into clinic, back, I was almost 20 years in obstetrics and gynecology. And when I went from biochemistry, hard science, to medicine, we're going to get a little pushback here, but medicine itself is algorithmic more so, and it's more of it's not as scientifically focused on a day-to-day biochemical pathway way until you get to the world of systems biology, which is functional medicine, which is really looking at the core. Why do we have this going on in our body? What is going on with our body, and how can we find the root cause, which is usually molecular? Okay, so it is usually inputs in our body, which can be lifestyle, thoughts, it can be nutrition, it can be exercise, sleep, how we interact with other people. Those are our inputs that actually can change the way that our biochemistry functions. So those are the things we need to optimize and change in order to get to that root cause and make change at that core level so that we can optimize fertility and everything else.
So, real quick, P450. What is that? Because you're excited about it. That makes me excited about it. Also, it's science, so I love it.
Okay, so the cytochrome P450 system is our metabolism system. It's in every cell, but it's usually a focus in the liver is what we're talking about. So when you look at what your medications are metabolized through, different medications are metabolized through different P450s. Okay, so that is, it's the enzyme that actually is a metabolism for, it's not just medication, but that's the way the general population and in medicine we look at it. So there are actually some tests out there called pharmacogenetics tests that you can have done. It's a simple cheek swab, and you can actually find out what your P450s are in activity. Are they slow? Are they fast? Or are they just right? And so then you can look at what medications you're taking, and it'll tell you whether you need to have more or less change the drug altogether. And of course, those of us in functional medicine, we would like to find a way to get you off of them altogether.
So discovered by your grandfather, right?
In his lab, yes.
And then you've got this so this understanding of testing and its ability to do kind of unique things from a very young age, from like the root cause, right? That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So the path to healthcare was clearly locked in for you early on. Can you talk about how you then really got focused in on fertility?
Yes, thank you for that. So I worked in OB-GYN for about just under 20 years, and people were not getting pregnant easily at younger ages. So people were at an increasing rate failing in vitro fertilization, IVF, having more issues like PCOS, endometriosis, PMDD, fibroids, all of these different issues that are usually hormonally a hormonal imbalance issue. And so we can actually take a look at what is going on in your body for those hormone levels and those inputs that I just referenced, and what can we do to make changes, and what supplements can happen. Now, that is over here. I probably just jumped the gun a little bit, because what I didn't share, and I know we both have twins, I don't know about your twins, but my twins, I needed help. So I was in the class of infertility, and the diagnosis of infertility is if you've gone 1 full year without getting pregnant while you're trying. So when you are working in OB-GYN, this is, and you see it so much, it's kind of your biggest nightmare, right? That you're going to be in that position and have infertility issues. I got pregnant. I didn't end up with IVF. I did end up with Clomid, which is a medicine that you take, 5 pills, for 5 days, a pill a day for 5 days, 9% chance of twins, and there I was with twins. I ended up on bed rest at 24 weeks. I was on my back for 8 weeks. I delivered them at 32 weeks, which is 2 months early. And I had 2 3-pound babies, and they were in the NICU for a number of weeks. And then they came home, and as they developed at around 1.5 to 2 years of age, I had my son assessed for autism, and my daughter had behavioral impulse control issues. So both of my children, I'm happy to report, are very healthy, and they're doing great. They just turned 18 last week, actually. My son is a senior in high school and in his 2nd year of college at the same time. My daughter is thriving in her senior year, and she's on POM, and she's social. They both have jobs. They are just incredible people. But the reason they got there is because I healed them with functional medicine. And once I healed them and got them better in that space, I thought I need to heal all the babies. And then the next thought I had was, you've spent your entire career in obstetrics and gynecology. Why don't you just prevent it in the first place? And so I started researching and looking into biochemistry studies, alternative medicine, holistic medicine, Ayurveda, systems biology, and I started making changes because I had people coming into my clinic absolutely devastated. They could not get pregnant. They'd failed IVF 3 times. And I would say, you want to try something outside of the box? And they would say yes. And so we would just start trying and applying some of these with consent, some of these changes in lifestyle, nutrition changes, definitely supplements that I recommended for egg and sperm health, depending on husband or wife, what the issue was, whether it was male factor or female factor or both. And we started having great success. But because of the level of education I needed to provide, a 10-minute visit didn't work in the clinic space. So it became very challenging for me. I got in a lot of trouble at my clinic. I could only help so many people per month. And when I did the math on it, it was only 13 people I could help at a time. That's not 13 visits. That's 13 people, probably over a span of 6 months, because seeing them once every 2 weeks for an hour added into my schedule is already, it made me come home 9 o'clock at night. My family was missing me. And I was trying to find a way to help more people, and we were very, very successful. About an 87% success rate in helping people conceive when it was in the clinic. So at that point, I was thinking, how can I scale this? How can I help more people, really? I didn't even know what scaling meant at that point in time, but we'll get there. So basically, I ended up getting asked, remember that P450 we were talking about? Let's come full circle. There is a test, that test I told you about, that PGX pharmacogenomics, pharmacogenetics test, looks at those P450s, and it also looks at different genes that we have that help with hormone regulation and metabolism and how things are transported back and forth. And I became very savvy in that testing. Well, a lab came in and stole me out of clinic, and I ended up the VP of Medical Affairs for 3 years at a laboratory here in Michigan. I built one of those PGX tests. I built a vaginal microbiome test so that we could actually help improve in these areas as well. And I ended up getting to educate providers throughout the state of Michigan, New Jersey, a little bit of New York. We started running the circuit so we could get providers, physicians to hear these are the things we need in order to make change. And we never learned about it in medicine. Every MD, DO that I ran into, they said, I never learned this in medical school. I never learned this in PA school. This is something that I learned after the fact, and I applied when I married biochemistry with medicine and looked at the physiology involved and systems biology. So at that point, I knew I needed to scale it. I learned a lot in corporate America, and I ended up launching Denovo Fertility. So I guess that's where we get here.
That's pretty awesome. So I have a couple of things to unpack. That company was Helix, right? I think I saw that
Helix
on
Diagnostics, yes.
Yeah, so kind of great work there. You talk about it's when you started blending biochemistry with medicine. And it's interesting because a very impactful speaker that I once saw was Dr. Linus Pauling. I got to see him speak.
Yes.
He's a 2-time Nobel Prize winner, once the Peace Prize, and I think once in chemistry. And all of the things that he really did, like tons of patents, were when he married chemistry and biology. And biochemistry didn't exist when he was going to school. And so he was probably the forefather. It wouldn't surprise me if they describe him as the forefather of biochemistry. It's when you cross the information, the knowledge from interdisciplines, I think that makes an amazing difference. You talked about an 87% success rate. By the way, you kind of alluded to a potential question. Yeah, my wife and I did have help, right? And that's why why we have twins. They were in NICU for my son was in for 6 weeks. My daughter was in for 2 weeks. And that was a very interesting experience because they're like, what are we doing today? We're teaching him how to eat. Like, the baby doesn't know how to eat. Like, this is just amazing. It's just amazing. And parenthood is an amazing process. My son, they both have attention deficit disorder. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting. I want to follow up and have some conversations with you. wonder how much that might be related. I guess that really kind of, in some sense, so you have 87% success rate. What is IVF typically? Like, I don't think it's even close to that, is it?
Yeah, IVF is less than 30% success rate at this point. And my colleagues in IVF who are very curious and really want everyone to get pregnant through their methods, they're pulling their hair out right now trying to figure out what to do. But a lot of them know that when you combine a program like ours with IVF, then usually you can conceive first cycle. Now, there's 3 different areas of infertility. One area is structural. So if tubes are blocked, or varicocele, if there's some reason why you need IVF, you absolutely must do IVF with us. If you work with us, you also have to do IVF because there's no way that's structural. We have to be able to get the egg and the sperm into the uterus for you to be able to have that baby. Another category is if there are medical conditions that are preventing you from getting pregnant otherwise, and those can be like thyroid conditions that are out of control, diabetes and other. And then there is another area which we call in a vague, broad brushstroke of hormonal imbalance or subclinical issue where you still kind of fall into that range of normal, but you're almost in that unexplained. And that's upwards of 50% at this point in time. And when you end up with those labs and they're very frustrating and everyone says it's unexplained infertility, we as women also, I think with men, we end up saying, well, what else is wrong with my body? What do you mean I can't get pregnant? What else? Why? We need to know why. And the answers are here, and we can actually find ways to be able to get you back to a reset space in a fairly significant, very quick time. It's a really quick time, depending on how invested the people are in doing the work that we ask them to do. So there's that. So yeah, upwards of 2 to 3 times of IVF cycles before you conceive. So that's about $100,000 at that point in time that you've spent.
Wow. So this kind of, for me, I kind of jotted this question. There's more and more women who are, focused on careers, and more of them are actually planning their first pregnancy. Like I have people who work here who a couple is like, well, it's in the future. And so they're, very intentionally not trying to get pregnant now. Is there an ideal time for women to be considering getting pregnant and does kind of missing that time frame? Like, what does that look like? Because I think it's a lot shorter optimally than women and people in general realize.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you 2 answers for almost everything probably. So I just gave you the IVF. I want to just touch back on IVF real quick just to say in November of 2023, literature came out saying those of us with subfertility have a slight increased risk of babies with autism. With that being said, that falls in those A buckets, autism, ADD, ADHD, and we can talk about that offline as well. When it comes to those parts, people are pointing at IVF and saying it's IVF's fault. It's subfertility's fault. And when we go into IVF, we're actually bypassing looking at those subfertility measures within our own body to be able to remove egg, remove sperm, put them together, and hope that we can get a good viable egg. So I think that's why those numbers are coming down. I just wanted to bring that point up, that I think that you kind of need to do something like ours plus IVF if you're going to add IVF to the equation. Yeah. So back to this age, the conventional medicine answer is before the age of 38. At 38, our egg reserve starts going down. That is the conventional medicine answer. Now, the functional medicine answer is we're seeing problems in our 20s now. Okay, so we're seeing trouble because those diagnoses like PCOS and endometriosis are on the rise. People that are actually trying to conceive younger are having issues. And the other factor that isn't a diagnosis, but that we really should talk about today is stress. And we are living in such a stress-filled society where we're all our nervous systems are a bit on fire. That actually can change your hormone balance to a way that will not be beneficial for reproductive ability. So it can be at any age. The older so this is going to sound two-sided, the older we get, then that means the more we're exposed to not just toxins outside of us or poor nutrition, or, the biggest toxin out there, I think, is other people and, and our thoughts, Our thoughts is probably our most
Yeah.
toxic thing, because other people we're only exposed to so much, but we're with us 24/7. And so if our mindset isn't right, then our toxic thoughts can actually create a biochemical change in our body. They can make cortisol go up, progesterone go down for women, cortisol go up for men, testosterone go down for men. So that can happen at an early age. And the longer we go, so if we're 45, well, we've been living that way for 45 years. So of course there's an issue when we wait longer. Now, when we look at getting on top of those factors, we can actually reverse some of that aging process. So then it doesn't really matter at that point. We could be 45 and have healthier eggs and sperm than somebody who's 28 that is living it not as well, because they're accumulating the damage in their body that is going to impact their reproductive ability in a greater way than the 45-year-old.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So one is, I think maybe what you're saying is we're actually living less healthy lives as a general population, and we can certainly throw out the sad American, the standard American diet, and so maybe challenges earlier. And then just if you get that right, a lot of what you've already talked, and I think we're going to dig into this a lot more. I know when we were going through IVF, taking folic acid was something that was, hey, recommended. And it feels like that's almost like, feels like a medicine 3.0 kind of strategy, right? Like, hey, proper nutrition, folic acid, something that's low. We've got some data on this. You should go ahead and take that. And then you've actually taken that to kind of the functional nutritional level where you're like, okay, but that's not it. Like, there's so many other things that you really should be looking at, testing, measuring. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. We work in concert with providers who do testing, but we don't actually require testing in the beginning because we know it's what's going to be wrong for the most part, just from your history. So we can spend your money right now on testing, or we can test later if what we do doesn't make a change. So that's in the testing space. Now, yes, folic acid, great example. So when conventional medicine says we shouldn't use supplements, folic acid is a great example of it. Is one of the best studied when it comes to prevention of neural tube defect. It is a requirement that we must have, or we should have, prior to conceiving, at least 72 days for men for sperm health, at least 90 days prior for egg health. So that is at a minimum, when we of course want it to be more. But it's so interesting. So many people don't even know to start their prenatal before starting their IVF. Yes, start your prenatal ahead of time. I actually have a 2-hour grand rounds that I have to pare down that is all of the scientific evidence to be able to bring to OB-GYNs and hospital systems so they can see the benefits of not just our supplements, but our lifestyle modifications that we do and all the evidence behind it. So it is very much that it's already in the conventional medicine model, as you said, like folic acid. It's just there's just a lot more. And when we don't learn about it in medicine, sometimes we can say, no, that's not true, as opposed to saying, I'm unaware of that, let's look further, because medical providers are burnt out. They don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it.
So you're looking at preparing people who are struggling, or maybe even just preparing people, hey, you're about to get pregnant, like let's get a lot of things in place. And I want to dig more into that. So now now they're pregnant. What are the risks of just having a baby later in life? And is the age 38 the key for the risk, or is that the key for the risk of not getting pregnant? Like, what does that look like?
Right. So it's both. So the egg reserve starts declining at age 38 in the traditional conventional medicine model. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in addition to that, there's an increased likelihood or possibility that you will have a chromosomal abnormality. And basically the way that science works is, our chromosomes are connected together. And what happens as we are getting older, when cell division occurs, those chromosomes get they get more fragile, and so then they can break off and not necessarily have 2 and 2, we can end up with, 3 and 1. And so you can end up with a chromosomal abnormality. I will tell you there are methods, especially in autonomic nervous system regulation, meditation, that actually can reverse telomere length. So it can actually reverse age, your chromosomal age. There is no study that I'm aware of that is looking at outcome data on that at this point in time. We hope we're going to be able to contribute to that as time goes on, as we watch, because we are going to start watching risk factors with babies going through our system. We're going to watch those babies through the age of 9, so we can watch the trajectory of what those are and make sure that they're ticking down with our methods, so that we can hopefully find good data down the road. We're 10 years out from that, basically saying maybe these methods may provide a decreased possibility for something like Down syndrome. Right now, we have no claim on that. We can't make a claim on that, and I wouldn't, because I don't have any of that type of data. But as we get older, like at 40, our chance, our risk of having a Downs baby is 1 in 50. And that seems super high. The truth is that's a 2% chance that you'll have a baby with Downs, which is actually a 98% chance that you won't. So depending on how you, as a future mom and dad, want to look at those numbers, it's something you do need to consider. And we do absolutely, because we take people in their 40s, we absolutely make sure people know that we're helping you in this way to have that miracle baby of yours. But there are risks when we are older, when it comes to chromosomal abnormalities and other issues.
Okay. So you're talking about meditation. I actually have a really good friend who's a human behavior expert. He used to kind of actually do a lot of his therapy work in hypnosis, and we had him make a hypnosis file as we were going through IVF. And so I can't imagine that the parallels aren't like extreme when you think about, consistent meditation and consistently listening to a hypnosis file that's focused on being a great mother, that's focused on conceiving and being healthy through the entire part. And it kind of has parallels. I know Joe Dispenza's doing a lot of meditation work, but a lot of science behind it, like taking blood samples before these events. I actually got to interview Dr. Patel, who's in charge of the medical piece behind it, the blood work piece behind it. And so, yeah, I think we're going to be coming up with a lot of, I love the phrase, you should be meditating for 10 minutes a day. And if you're too busy to meditate for 10 minutes a day, you should be meditating for 20
minutes a day. I heard that too. That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm a big Joe Dispenza fan. We do conscious, subconscious, unconscious work. So we do biofeedback and hypnosis. So there is something called baby blocks, which are those subconscious things in our brain that tell us we are not going to be able to have that baby. So we need to break those baby blocks down, and we need to replace them with all of those positive things you're talking about. And it's surprising for some people to learn that no matter how much they want that baby, there are still those little blocks that we have. Like, am I going to be a bad parent? When am I going to have any free time for myself? And we feel guilt when we're in the infertility space to have those thoughts even. And that's something we need to take care of, and we do, and we're pretty successful.
What's the biofeedback that you're using and that you're working with?
HeartMath. We use the same methodology. Actually, speaking of Joe Dispenza, so we're big into the HeartMath space. We have an incredible HeartMath trainer in some of our programs. There are some automated programs where people can learn through an automation, or we have other programs where you actually are in a training program with our live trainer who's been doing this successfully for years. She actually is also our hypnotherapist, and so she actually combines both. This is one of our secret sauce pieces. She combines our hypnotherapy and our biofeedback.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot. How does HeartMath work? I have a Mindy device. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I haven't been playing around with it consistently. How does the HeartMath work?
Yeah, it's great. It's a little device. It's in your phone. It works for both Apple and Android. So it's not, it's any device. It's a different device depending because of the connection. And it clips on your ear, and it basically is looking at heart rate variability.
Okay.
And you're doing a breath work with it. And so we just train you in the breath work. And it's usually, there are a lot of different things you could do. I like the mandala one where it goes out and in and you can breathe and that. And then it turns different colors to say whether you're in coherence or not. And we get you up to 15 minutes twice a day.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I was doing, I think, 10 minutes twice a day with a mini device, and then I've fallen off. I need to get back to that. I think it's pretty. It looks at blood flow at your forehead, which is ostensibly your prefrontal cortex, and
yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, I think I've seen that device. Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I don't know how to control it yet, but I don't think I'm supposed to yet, right? Because you're actually trying to control the brain waves at a more core level, and so there's this. That's why the feedback loop is actually so important to figure out how to control it. And
it's interesting. Yeah, my daughter was in neurofeedback for 2 years, and that was one of our big changes for her. And if you ask her now, and both my kids are really smart and socialized and everything. And if you ask her what's the one thing that made a difference for you, she'll say brain training. That's what we called it when she was little. We put her in when she was 7. And I tried out the neurofeedback stuff. And the one thing that I learned about neurofeedback is if you try, you fail. You actually can't try because that's our cognitive mind that is trying to make a difference, which is how we got here in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's challenging to the point that it really, you should not. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that because that's exciting, and I've got a lot more to learn there and a lot more to play with. So you talked about, 38 is this kind of age. Is this linear, right? So your peak is in your 20s and then it's just linearly, not as good, or is there some sort of asymptotic?
Yeah, it's an exponential curve. Yeah, it's pretty much an exponential curve at this point. Yeah.
Okay, starting at about 38.
Yeah. So I mean, it's still, it's linear and then goes exponential is basically what we're saying, right around 35.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
One thing, and we haven't talked about this yet, but miscarriages are something we experienced. Basically everybody I know they've experienced. And I did a little research, found like one stat said 10 to 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriages. And almost everyone close to me, like I said, has one, but they're rarely discussed. People don't want to talk about it. I think people who end up having a miscarriage are often caught off guard because it's never discussed. And they end up with these feelings of guilt, like, why me? Because it never happens to anyone else. Why do you think we don't talk about, maybe get some stats and your thoughts, and then why do we not talk about miscarriages?
Sure. Yeah. So miscarriage rate is about 1 in 4, 25%. That does include those late periods, those chemical pregnancies that are, you think your period is just a week late, but it was actually an early pregnancy. It does include those numbers as well. But one thing that I think is really important to know statistically also is when it comes to stress, infertility, and miscarriage rank higher on a stress scale for women than the loss of a parent or a divorce. So even if it's not the loss, the miscarriage, or the infertility itself, the level of stress, angst that we have associated with both of those are extremely high. So a lot of people just go within, decide they don't want to discuss it. They also don't necessarily know how to deal with it themselves. It was a loss. The fear associated with miscarriage is extremely high when it comes to what's going to happen next time. Even when I was in clinic, if I had someone who had a loss, I would have them come in early and often for the next pregnancy. I would say, you call me the day you have a positive pregnancy test. We're going to make a plan. Most OB-GYN offices don't see you till you're 12 weeks. Because the majority of miscarriages happen before 12 weeks. Okay, so I would see you at around 6 weeks, which means 2 weeks after you missed your period. If you found out that you missed your period, I can have you come in early and we get blood pregnancy test numbers. Now, the earlier it is, the lower the number, it can cause more fear. So there's a lot of education in this space. I have to say, the number might be low, and I'm automatically going to check it again 48 hours later, because 48 hours later, it's going to at least double. Okay. And so then that's an early time frame of reassurance. Even if you're 6 weeks, I can get you feeling at least a little better, right? Okay. The numbers are doubling. Then if I can get you an early ultrasound, but a viability ultrasound is usually around 7 weeks where you can see a heartbeat. And so if I can get you on the ultrasound schedule and get the ultrasound done and see you immediately thereafter to give you more reassurance. Now, there's always that loophole of we might not see a heart rate this early. We might have to repeat it again next week. I'm not good for the healthcare dollar. I'll just tell you, I'm not good for insurance plans because I will order so much testing so that your mental health and wellness can be much better, because that stress, remember we talked about that stress. And when we are that stressed, that can be impactful on your pregnancy as well.
Do you have any idea of like what percentage of miscarriages do you think are related to stress or caused by stress?
I don't. I can tell you when it comes to early miscarriage, like first 6 weeks, 95% are genetic. So that would be something didn't go quite right in egg and sperm division. So that's the conventional medicine statistic. And the other part is the data on stress that I used to quote in conventional medicine is, if stress caused miscarriage, every teenage pregnancy would be over, right? Like we wouldn't have any of them, but it's just not true. So when we look at that stress and that impact, it does have its contributing factor in that space, but I'm more worried about autonomic nervous system balance. How are we going to get your balance with your parasympathetic and your sympathetic? Because that can impact that baby. You need to give that baby a good, healthy environment to grow up in the next 40 weeks so that when the baby comes out, it's not pre-programmed for stress.
And I think there's probably another, complication to the question that I just asked, right? Like caused by stress, because I think your process would argue that the stress that was occurring pre-conception is, it's not just like, oh, now I've had a baby and I have whatever stress because of work or whatever. It's all of the stresses that have occurred pre-conception that have,
Absolutely.
potentially had impact on the sperm and on the egg. And so it's like, what is it? That's why you start early and often and continue. Like that makes sense.
Very. And it's so common that we're now seeing, we're actually in our space, in observation, we're seeing that people, once they have a loss, there can be loss after loss after loss. So we need to get their nervous system regulated so that they can feel safe in their own body to be able to have that baby. So I'd like to get you before you even have a loss, to be honest. But if it'd be great if we can get people in that space of autonomic nervous system balancing, get them in their biofeedback, get them breathing and hypnotherapy so that they can know that their body can do this, get the appropriate nutrition in and go from there so they really feel secure and safe in their own system so they can easily get pregnant and carry to term.
All right, well, let's talk about your baby, Denovo, right?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, of course. And I think you still have another company. I thought I don't see the name in my notes here.
Yeah.
Was it an outcropping of the previous company? How did Denovo land on the map from the work that you were doing previously? And I want to jump in. You've got a roadmap. Let's talk about the things.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, when it comes to my previous company, I have a small private practice that is over on the side here, which is pretty much, I'm not doing much in it because Denovo is so important, and that is a medical practice. Here, I am a human being who owns a wellness company that is filled with 8 beautiful coaches. I have 3 men and 5 women. Everybody is at the top of their game. So I have, for example, my 3 men coaches for all of the dads, because we help mom and dad, male and female factor, because male factor fertility is an issue in 40% of cases of infertility. It doesn't rule out female factor. It just happens to be, it could be in addition to. So our 3 male coaches, they're all leaders in the Mankind Project. They're all coaches and in their own right prior to joining Denovo. And then I have an IFM functional medicine coach. I have a nutritionist, but she's a pharmacist with a master's in nutrition and a 2-year certification in mindfulness. I have a somatics and sexual health and relationship coach. I have my HeartMath and hypnotherapy person. My goodness, I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. I don't think I am. But my functional medicine coach is also an RN and has been for 15 years in mental health and pediatrics. So like we have 150 years of experience between us, with all of us just coming in. And so we're an incredible group. I just brought on a new COO. I have to give a shout out to Angel, who actually does all the things that I hate. So he's all of the financials and all of the raising capital, because we're expanding really fast. And so I need someone to manage that part while we take care of the people. So I'm not doing as much in the medical practice. I do have that over here on the side, and that's active in Michigan. So and that's right now in that space. What I am doing is I'm coaching men men executives, basically in the wellness space, and upping their game. So like high level C-suite executives, that's where they can come in, because we can do biohacking and they'll do what I say. And I hate to say it like that, but
yeah,
they'll do what I say. And so that's what's happening over there. And this is a wellness company, and we are basically wellness. We collaborate with physicians. And one of the reasons we're wellness and not medicine is we're not taking your patients, but we are letting physicians have the time to do their job and not have to provide all the extra time with the education and hand holding. We do that for them. So we bring in our programs, which are pretty much automated. We plug into a clinic, and we have like 2 coming on tomorrow, I think. And so, I mean, we're just so excited that we're expanding into that space, and our physicians are able to have some quality of life because we're taking the difficult to answer questions. We're bringing in, these are the lifestyle things that you need to change. When I was back in clinic, remember I said I was trying to help 13 more people in an hour a pop every 2 weeks. We take that on so people don't have to crash and burn like I did. So that's what we're doing in that space. And we also have direct to consumer. So we have smaller programs that are affordable for everyone. And then we have larger programs for people who have had a loss that need a little bit more help, like hypnotherapy and HeartMath, and get the hands on. So we have a whole range of those. We're at DenovoFertility.com if you want to check us out.
Oh yeah, we'll bring that back up again. So you've got at Denovo, I think I saw you have some sort of program. Maybe it's a way that you can donate or support, and you do a HeartMath course. What does that look like?
Thank you so much for noticing that. Okay, so we partnered with Helping Hands Ministries and Provision Bridge. They are a nonprofit that people can give donations to. It's end of year, so it's all tax deductible donations that will help people go through our programs. And so there is a high level donation that if you give a certain amount, then we will train your C-suite. This is for businesses in HeartMath. We'll do an online training for you so that you can get your executives to be in that space of autonomic nervous system balancing. As we know, if we're in fight or flight, we can't be creative. When we're in parasympathetic rest and digest, you get back online, your relationships are better, you can be more productive. So that's what we're offering to those companies.
Awesome. So, and that's available on your website. We'll give that out. Talk about your Denovo Fertility roadmap. It's quite a roadmap, right? Like there's a number of points, maybe just kind of the phases and what you tend to dig into and what people might expect if they're going through your process.
Sure. And I don't have our roadmap in front of me right now, but I can basically tell you how this goes. And this is also on our website to give people a general idea. You come in, we do an assessment, we look at your entire history, we help you with balancing relationships, because it's very challenging when it comes to fertility. We tend to be in this spot where we say, this is my fault or this is your fault, and we keep it in our head. So we really help you with your relationship space. We bring in supplements that are going to optimize your fertility. We get you in a very supportive community. So community is anti-inflammatory. It's been demonstrated in study and in blue zones. So we know that when we bring you a community of like-minded people, not only are you with people who are in the same struggle that you are, so that you're not alone, you are surrounded by our entire community to be able to help you grow as well. And we collaborate with your provider. So that's another part of our roadmap that we'll do. So if that's something that you would like us to do, we will. I think that's pretty much and we do our biofeedback devices and our hypnotherapy.
Yeah, you've kind of got pulled it up on your website. You've kind of got phase 1 is assess, phase 2 is alleviate, and phase 3 is align. Talk a little bit more about the alignment, and then we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, so alignment is basically once we have you, as you know, we assess where you are. We alleviate those concerns. So when we see, for example, your nutrition is poor in our alleviate stage, then what we will do is we will optimize that nutrition. And then with our alignment, we have our entire community, your biofeedback gets you aligned, and also our large community and working with your provider.
Yeah,
is there something I missed on? I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know if there's something I missed on there.
That connection is so important. I know that my wife and I used to go to kind of IVF treatment groups, right, of people trying to go through IVF and get pregnant. And my wife continued to go that after we had the twins, like regularly. And my wife's kind of a hero that way. But
we have if you go through our flagship program, we continue with a pregnancy program and a postpartum program, because once people join us in this community, it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave a community of people that are supporting you and that you are supporting. Of course, people can meet outside of that. But when it comes to the broad part of the whole community, it's really a remarkable change. We teach you how to speak to each other and how you can, we teach imago dialogue and nonviolent communication and intro to tantra. We get you eye gazing and breathing together, and it's a little bit different, but it's so healing that you go out in the world, and if you aren't surrounded by at least a few people that are doing it the same way that you are, you kind of close up again in your own four walls. So it's good for us to expand that. And since our goal is to change the way that fertility is done globally, we really want to expand that community. Oh,
very cool. So I saw on one talk that you were on that traditional fertility doctors look at A.M.H. It's a test result. And then if they're low, they send you straight to IVF. Yeah. What is A.M.H. and what is why is the first option from traditional doctors to go straight to IVF?
Yeah, so A.M.H., Anti-Müllerian Hormone, historically was a marker of egg reserve. When it's low, it implies your eggs are low. When it's high, it can imply things like endometriosis. So if you are low, what happens in conventional medicine is they're afraid you're going to lose your window of opportunity to conceive, and they feel the best way for you to conceive with a low AMH, because that implies low egg reserve, is to go straight to IVF to get your eggs removed, it's overstimulated, removed, put some sperm in there, and then get them back in your uterus so you can get going and start having your babies. So that's why it's really an urgency sense. And the other is conventional medicine, like family practice, isn't trained on Clomid or letrozole or any of those first steps, but truly it is scary for a provider to see a bottomed out AMH and then waste even a month of your time. Maybe they'll do 1 month of Clomid if they're savvy before get it on the wait for you to get into IVF to see if that one will work, if they know what they're doing with it, because the Clomid doesn't come without risk. And so that's how that ends up going. Interestingly, in the functional medicine world, AMH can be improved with the work we do. So whenever anyone says my AMH is 0.2 or whatever it is, it doesn't make me flinch. Actually, I get really excited because that means I'm going to be able to improve it. I would love that. Now, that's a test that sometimes I get them to get their provider to run. I'm like, let's just check it again in 6 months after we've gotten you through this program and process. And if you're not pregnant, then let's look at where it is. And it takes, after doing, if you're 35 and trying to get pregnant, it doesn't take only 2 weeks to get things better. It's taken you 35 years to get here. We have a 6-week program, we have a 8-week program, and we have a 12-week program. After a 12-week program, we say it's usually about 3 to 6 months, and we anticipate conception in that. And with our program right now, we have greater than 80% success rate.
That's absolutely phenomenal. If you were to talk to a traditional physician and say, hey, I'm going to work on my AMH number, what would they say?
It's
working
impossible.
to improve it, right?
It's impossible.
Isn't
Yeah.
that is amazing? It's also like it's impossible to get off of diabetes drugs. It's impossible to get off of, a lot of these forever drugs. I got the opportunity to interview Dr. Robert Lufkin, who wrote the book The Lies I Taught in Medical School, and he was prescribed 4 forever drugs, and in his own community, like that's just the way it is. And he dove into functional nutrition, functional medicine, the all the standard health things that you would do for yourself, and is not on none of them now. And so it's just, I just find this chasm between medicine 2.0 and what Peter Tia calls medicine 2.0 and medicine 3.0 just befuddling, absolutely befuddling. And I have to say, in the context of, and I'd like you to speak to this, in the context of, women are born with all the eggs that they're going to have, right? Mm-hmm. And when you just conceptually, you think of them like an egg in a carton, and then when they go bad in a carton, they're bad. And then what can you do about that? And what you're describing is not that at all. It's like you have total control of the carton. There's rebuilding mechanisms, that may not be the best description, so we can put these eggs back together. Like, what do you think's going on? Is there anything more than this kind of conceptual understanding, or what do you think's going on?
So let me clarify. So when you say, what do I think is going on when it comes to the eggs in the carton, or?
Well, I guess, so the A.M.H, maybe it's just the factor of what the A.M.H number is, right? And then that fact, whatever you're improving, when you improve the A.M.H number, how does that directly improve the chances of fertility? And I get, it's not just egg related, because you're probably not changing the eggs that much, right? You were born with them. Kind of walk me through that a little, please.
Yeah. So A.M.H is actually being studied a lot right now. So they're calling it like the new test to look for, what is it for? So they're looking at for endometrial PCOS. I think they're looking at it for right now, like for a diagnostic in there. So I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly what that new data is. I just started glancing over and saying, of course, A.M.H. So when it comes down to it, when I say I want to check it to see if it's, 3.5 or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter to me. I want to prove it to the patient. I want to prove it to them that it's like, look at the work that you've done, because I don't necessarily see an A.M.H after it's 0.2. I just say, we're not going to worry about it. And then 6 months later, 3 months later, you're pregnant. They're not thinking about the A.M.H either. So I just know that I can be very reassuring when I see a low A.M.H, that we don't need to actually consider that necessarily. So I think it's been given this big, we learned in medicine, low A.M.H means low or no egg reserve. Move on to IVF, and that's pretty much how conventional medicine is. Like, here's a test result, this is what this means. And that's pretty much the extent of it at that point in time. So I like that A.M.H is being studied yet again in some way. And I know it's getting hot out there right now. I don't know if you're looking it up right this second, because I can see your eyes going a little, but seriously, like there's new data coming out. So I'm real curious what direction that's going to go.
Well, and again, I think you probably, some of your patients would just flat out get such a sense of relief, because the way you speak is not the way that their conventional doctor is speaking, right? Like, your A.M.H is low. There's no way for it to ever change. We need to go to this drastic solution yesterday. And you're coming and going, that's a number. And, you take a deep breath, and we've got an 87% success rate. And, that's the egg carton concept probably fits into the dialogue of the traditional doctor really well, right? Like, I know I've had them, and I know I was born with them, and how could I possibly improve them? But it's actually the other factors. It's a lot of other factors related to getting pregnant. It's just exciting that I'm sure your patients are thrilled. Your parents too.
Our patients are very happy. They scream, from the rooftops about us and everything. So our clients, anyway, we don't have patients because we're wellness, but it's really something, just even getting them in the door, because they don't even have the time to be able to hear this from conventional medicine, who has the 10-minute appointment. So we do consultations where even if it's just coming on board and not signing up for one of our programs, if you just want to have a conversation, we have those offered on our website too. So, and those are with me. And then if you wanted to call for a discovery call to see if we're a good fit, it's only with our coaches. We don't have a service that answers any of that. It's the people you would be working with that take every single phone call. No front desk.
That's pretty awesome. All right, you have a thing called the Year of the Healthy Baby. It's an initiative you had. We talk about that initiative. Let's keep it a little tight, and then we'll get to wrap up questions because I know you and I both have a hard stop here.
Hard stop. So thank you for that. Year of the Healthy Baby is our 2025 campaign. We're trying to get 10,000 people pregnant and these healthy babies out through our programs. So we have a special offer that's on our website, denovofertility.com, and you click on Year of the Healthy Baby. It's called Baby Basics. It's a 6-week, it says 5 weeks, but we give you an extra week because we couldn't help ourselves. So it's a 6-week automated program at your pace, but you get our community in a private Facebook group, and we are on every day as coaches. So although you're not with us in the way that the flagship programs are, it is a way to get there. So risk, the whole fertility rate is it's 20%, it's 1 in 5, but we're looking at making healthy babies. This isn't even just about those who haven't been able to get pregnant. We want all of this prevention on board. We want you eating the right food, thinking the right thoughts, breathing the right air, doing the right movement, having the right relationship conversations so that we can help boost the possibility of having a high level, happy, high functioning baby, happy mom and dad. So that's our intention with that. Please join us on the mission. And we have on our website or on Facebook, we're doing a Facebook Live. I know this is probably going to air after that, but it's always in the recording. Our recordings are there for people who want to, see what we are doing. Denovo Fertility Community on Facebook. There's a lot of information there also. And then, of course, everyone can join our free group. And but join us for the Year of the Healthy Baby. We're super excited. We want to follow your babies. We want to make sure they're healthy. We want to make sure you're happy. That's our plan.
What a great initiative. All right, so we have our kind of standard wrap-up questions, and I know you're going to try and fudge on this. I'm going to try and get an actual number from you on this. Do you, Jessica, have a target age that you want to live to?
123.
I like it. 120. You want to beat Jean Clement. She's currently the oldest living human on record, and so you want to beat her by 1 year. That's it. I love that. And how long do you think humans can live?
That's such an interesting, I know that I kind of cheated and I saw that question. I don't know. I think 123 is a push, but I also believe in you can have anything and do anything that you want pretty significantly. I think that, maybe 150. I know that people think longer than that. I think that with the new technology to be able to reverse telomere length, what we can get to with meditation and healthy eating, healthy community, I think that as long as you are working to optimize those pieces of your life, then we can see. It's like that 4-minute mile, right? You just, till you get there, you don't know that you can. So let's see how far we can go.
I like it. What 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets, let's call them shortcuts because everybody likes shortcuts, to longevity and a long health span can you share?
Okay, have gratitude. So live in gratitude, find that. If you don't have it, find it, look for it and find it. Breathing, making sure that you are breathing like the physiologic style, like Huberman's work, is that deep breath in, little sip of an extra breath in, and then a longer exhale than an inhale. Do that every day so that you can make sure you can feel what parasympathetic feels like and try to be in that space. And the third would be if you find yourself in a mental space of conflict, stop the wheel. Stop the conflict wheel. If you figure out where you can feel it in your body, release the conflict that put you there and then just breathe through until that piece releases. You'll notice all of mine have to do with nervous system regulation, and I think that's really key. Loving others, truly loving others, which means loving yourself. I'm going on. There are more.
Yeah. So when you say conflict, are you talking like your own kind of conflict with yourself, or are you actually talking about conflict with other people?
Yep, both of those things.
Both,
It doesn't
okay.
matter. Anything that is
Yeah.
a conflict is going to be, that's making that wheel spin, is going
Yeah.
to impact your nervous system adversely.
Absolutely. What are 1 to 2 things that people are getting absolutely wrong regarding longevity and a long health span?
I love that I get challenged on being controversial here. I think that some of the medications out there that say help you live longer, yes, I think in study, like statins, say that there's some information there, but the impact, the negative impact that it has on dementia and brain health and other issue, CoQ10 depletion, basically, I think some of the medications that we're on, of course, we have to heal the issues that you're on this for anyway, for other issues, for other reasons in conventional medicine. But I think that that's something that we have definitely wrong.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you've shared a little bit, but go ahead and kind of go over that again. How can people contact you?
Great. So website is denovofertility.com. You can email denovofertility@gmail.com or hello@denovofertility.com. We are on all socials. So on our public group on Facebook is Denovo Fertility Community. We are Denovo Fertility on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on LinkedIn, Denovo Fertility, Denovo Wellness and Fertility. And frankly, we'd love some people to start following us on LinkedIn so we can and on TikTok so we can start putting our streaming. We don't have enough followers on them to allow people to have access to our free streaming information, only Facebook and Instagram right now. So that would be great. But you can reach us through all of those avenues. Please reach out to us if there's anything that you need. And as I said, we have a special right now through the end of the year for 10% off of our programs, 20% off of our VIP program, and Year of the Healthy Baby campaign.
Excellent. And what in the near future are you excited about?
Oh my gosh, we're bringing on these clinics, these providers who are really curious and savvy and really want to make a difference. So we're bringing our programs into some of these clinics so that we can run it for that education piece for our medical providers that are running these clinics. I love that. We are in the accredited capitalist space, so we're basically helping in that space. So we are getting attention of investors at this point in time who are super excited about the work that we're doing. Those people that are at a level where they're not just wanting to invest, but they're wanting to change the world and feel good ventures. And so that's where we are. We are potentially going to be able to align with a major health system. I can't share about this, but locally in Michigan here in the innovation sector, to be able to work on some piloting with larger organizations so that we can help out in that space too.
That is awesome. All right. Well, you can find her at denovofertility.com. There's a Facebook group, Denovo Fertility Community. You can connect there. Make sure to follow her on LinkedIn and on TikTok so she can start getting free streams onto those platforms. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Chris, thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.